All right, let's go. Number 10, the Antikythera Mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera recovered a corroded lump of bronze from a Roman-era shipwreck. For decades, it sat unexamined. When physicist Derek J. de Sola Price finally X-rayed it in 1971, the interior revealed a gear train of at least 30 meshing bronze gears. Nothing of comparable technological complexity should exist until the 14th century. This was a 2,000-year-old analog computer. The mechanism calculated the positions of the sun and moon, predicted eclipses, and tracked the cycles of the Olympic Games. It used a differential gear, a technology historians believed was invented in the 16th century. The device models the moon's elliptical orbit with startling precision, accounting for its varying speed across the sky. Whoever built this understood celestial mechanics on a level we associate with the Renaissance, not the Hellenistic period. The disturbing implication is not that one genius built it, but that it represents a surviving fragment of a larger technological tradition, a tradition the historical record has completely forgotten. Entire systems of knowledge can vanish. The mechanism proves that the timeline of human technological evolution you were taught is a smoothed-over story with deep, unreadable gaps. What other devices were on that ship? What knowledge sank with it that could have rewritten the technological path of your civilization? Somewhere in a museum case you walk past without a second glance is a piece of your own history that defies everything you believe about the linear progress of your species. Number 9, the London Hammer. In 1936, Max and Emma Hahn discovered something impossible near London, Texas. A piece of rock, broken open, revealed a wooden-handled iron hammer embedded inside. The rock around it, Ordovician limestone, dated by conventional geology to over 400 million years old. The hammer itself shows a level of iron purity and metallurgical technique not replicable until modern steel production, yet it sits encased in stone from a time before amphibians existed. Analysis shows the handle has begun the process of coalification, turning into coal, a process requiring immense time. The iron head is composed of 96.6% iron, with a chlorine content so high it cannot rust. Modern metallurgists cannot explain how iron of this purity and strange alloy was produced in any era, let alone one dramatically out of place. Creationist and skeptic debates rage around it, but the physical object remains, housed in the Creation Evidence Museum. What makes the London Hammer so unsettling is its aggressive refusal to fit any clean narrative. If it's a modern miner's hammer cemented by natural limestone concretion, it shouldn't show this advanced, corrosion-resistant alloy composition. If it's an ancient artifact, the entire timeline of tool use on Earth collapses. The object you can physically see and touch does not align with the Earth's history you were given. The Earth might preserve artifacts that casually annihilate the timeline of your ancestors. A tool where a tool simply should not be, existing before the life that supposedly wields it, suggesting that your understanding of deep time is, at its foundation, deeply incomplete. Number 8, the Piri Reis Map. In 1929, historians cataloging the archives of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul found a fragment of a gazelle-skin map, signed by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis in 1513. The map shows the western coast of Africa, the coast of Brazil, and with shocking detail, the northern coastline of Antarctica. Antarctica was not officially sighted until 1820. The map depicts the coastline as it exists under the ice, a coastline not seen by human eyes since the continent froze over 6,000 years ago. Admiral Piri Reis noted in the margins that his map was compiled from much older source maps, some tracing back to the Library of Alexandria. The projection is accurate, and seismic profiling by the U.S. Air Force and the Weston Observatory confirms the subglacial features match the map's depiction. You are looking at a map drawn from knowledge that should not have existed in 1513, inherited from sources that should not have existed in antiquity. It presents a continuity of geographical knowledge that erases the Dark Ages and pushes advanced cartography deep into prehistory. The terrifying implication is that a complete, accurate map of the world existed before known civilizations could have produced it, and then it was lost. The map itself is a remnant of a global maritime civilization that left no other trace you can find. You live on coastlines that were precisely mapped by hands that history forgot. When you look at a modern satellite image of Antarctica beneath the ice, you are only seeing what the creators of the source maps for Piri Reis had already charted, and then watched vanish under a mile of ice. The knowledge was achieved, and then it was taken away. Number 7. The Coso Artifact. On February 13, 1961, 3 rockhounds were searching for geodes in the Coso Mountains of California. One of them, Wallace Lane, picked up a geode and brought it back to his shop. When he cut it open with a diamond saw, he found something inside that should not exist. Inside the geode was a perfectly circular cross-section of what appeared to be a device. At the center, a metal pin about 2 millimeters in diameter. Around that, a hexagonal casing of corroded copper. Surrounding that, a ceramic-like material with a regular pattern. It was, by all structural appearance, a spark plug. Enclosed in a 500,000-year-old geode. X-ray and analysis by geologists confirmed the object was encased in the natural nodule, and the surrounding material was indeed a very old, hardened clay and rock matrix. The artifact shows no sign of having been drilled and inserted. It grew inside the geode. If it is a 1920s champion spark plug, as skeptics claim, it underwent a fossilization process requiring hundreds of thousands of years in a few short decades. If it is not a modern spark plug, it is evidence of highly advanced internal combustion technology in the Pleistocene, a time when your direct ancestors were mastering stone axes. The object sits in a private collection, leaving its mystery unresolved. The quiet horror of the Coso artifact is the thought experiment it forces on you. That a precise, machined device from a high-technology culture can, given enough deep time, be completely erased, reduced to a ghost imprint inside a stone. All the metal alloys, all the synthetic ceramics, all the complex geometries of your proudest machines will eventually be geologically indistinguishable from the rock they are buried in. This object is a message from a future that has already happened, a warning about how thoroughly time devours even the most advanced engineering, leaving only a faint, impossible signature for the next primitive species to misinterpret. Number 6. The Dropa Stones. In 1938, high in the Bayan-Karaula Mountains on the border of China and Tibet, an archaeological expedition led by Dr. Kai Pu-Te discovered caves containing a series of unusual graves. The skeletons were humanoid, but with remarkably small, frail frames and large, disproportionately developed craniums. Buried with them were 716 stone discs, each about 9 inches in diameter, with a perfectly round hole in the center. What condemned these objects to scientific exile was what covered them, a microscopic spiral groove of hieroglyphic-like characters, winding from the center hole to the rim, telling a detailed story. In 1962, Professor Tsum Nui of the Beijing Academy of Sciences claimed to have deciphered the script. The translation told the story of an alien craft that crash-landed in the mountains 12,000 years ago. The beings, self-named the Dropa, were unable to repair their craft and were stranded on Earth. Local tribes hunted them, killing many. The surviving Dropa, according to the translation, were the occupants of those graves. The discs are a funerary record of a stranded, non-human intelligence. The scientific establishment denounced the translation, and Professor Nui recanted before his death in disgrace. The discs disappeared into various Chinese museums and private collections, inaccessible for independent verification. But the specific physical description of the discs, their precise geometry and microscopic spiraled text, presents a material culture that fits no known regional ethnic group. Something was buried in those mountain caves. Someone carved 716 identical records of an arrival event. We have been given just enough detail to know the question is enormous, and all physical access to the answer has been sealed away by institutions designed to discover truth. Your history on this planet is not alone, and the evidence has been cataloged and hidden from you. Number 5. The Saqqara Bird. In 1898, an excavation in an Egyptian tomb at Saqqara unearthed a small wooden artifact, dated to approximately 200 BC. It was catalogued casually and placed in the Cairo Museum, labeled simply bird figure. It sat ignored until Dr. Khalil Messiha, a medical doctor and aeronautics enthusiast, noticed something deeply wrong with the classification. The Saqqara bird does not look like any bird known to or depicted by ancient Egyptians. The wings are straight and aerodynamically shaped, not swept like a falcon's. The tail is a vertical stabilizer, a rudder, not a bird's horizontal tail fan. There is a notch on the underside, precisely where a flight stabilizer model would attach to a fuselage. Messiha built a scale model and placed it in a wind tunnel. It flew. It does not glide like a child's toy. It has the aerodynamics of a push glider, producing lift and maintaining stable flight. In 2002, aerodynamicist Simon Sanderson built an even larger balsa model and confirmed it. The vertical tail is the critical anomaly. No bird has a vertical tail. The Coso Artifact is a scale model of a large, powered aircraft. In 200 BC, when your history declares humans had only mastered basic metallurgy and the chariot. The Egyptians themselves gave us the clue all along. They found this object in a tomb marked Padi Amen, a name that translates to a minor official. But the tomb location and the object's apparent value suggest it was placed there with significant ritual intent. A model of something real, something they had seen. You walk through museums and see what they want you to see, a primitive ceremonial bird carving. You are not told that an amateur doctor built a replica and watched it fly a stable path, proving that the aerodynamic principle of lift was understood and engineered in wood 2 millennia before the Wright brothers. Your ancestors understood flight, they modeled it, and the object that proves it is locked in a display case under a label that lies to your face every single day. Number 4, the Baalbek Trilithon. At the ancient site of Baalbek in Lebanon, the Romans built a monumental temple complex to Jupiter. They are credited with the architecture. But at the base of the temple sits the Trilithon, a row of 3 stone blocks. Each block is approximately 62 feet long, 14 feet high, 12 feet deep, and weighs an estimated 800 tons. They are so massive that nothing in the known Roman engineering catalog can lift them. The largest cranes the Romans built topped out at around 60 tons. These blocks are 10 times that weight. They were quarried a mile away and lifted 20 feet into the air onto a base layer of equally colossal stones, perfectly fitted without mortar. The foundation layer beneath the Trilithon contains stones weighing over 400 tons. Further into the quarry sits the stone of the pregnant woman, a block meant for this platform that cracked before transport. It weighs 1,000 tons. Then, in 2014, archaeologists from the German Archaeological Institute found another block still buried in the quarry, the Hajar al-Hibla. This one weighs an estimated 1,650 tons. That is heavier than 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 airplanes. No machine in your world today can lift that block in one piece. No Roman legion built the base of Baalbek. The Romans built their temple on a platform they inherited, a platform they could not replicate. They probably did not know who built it either. Who poured the concrete and stacked the 1,000-ton blocks, perfectly aligning them, is a question that receives no answer in any history book. You stand in front of a 1,650-ton stone, fully detached from bedrock by ancient hands, and you are told to accept that it's a mystery you're not supposed to think about. This stone is the physical representation of a predecessor species whose engineering capability is so far beyond yours that you have to misattribute their work to a civilization you can comprehend, just to keep your narrative of human capability linear and safe. A dead race lifted a weight we cannot lift, and we gave the credit to someone less threatening. Number 3, the Fuente Magna Bowl. Near Lake Titicaca, in Bolivia, a local farmer discovered a large stone bowl inscribed with complex iconography. The Fuente Magna Bowl, as it became known, features carvings of anthropomorphic figures, serpent motifs, and geometric designs, but the real shattering anomaly is the script on the interior. 2 official Bolivian archaeologists brought the bowl to the attention of epigraphers, and the translation came back as a shock. The script is Proto-Sumerian cuneiform, a writing system from Mesopotamia, 8,000 miles away, from a culture that collapsed 4,000 years ago. The text is a petition to the goddess Namu, the Sumerian mother goddess of the primordial sea, asking for assistance or fertility. Neutron activation analysis and element spectroscopy performed on the bowl confirm it is of local Andean clay and mineral composition. The bowl was not imported from Sumer. It was manufactured in Bolivia. The inscriptions were made when the clay was wet, before firing, meaning the scribe was in Bolivia, writing in Sumerian, invoking a Sumerian goddess. During a time period when no transoceanic contact should have been possible. The bowl sits in a museum in La Paz, largely unacknowledged by Western archaeology because it shatters the closed system model of ancient civilizations. You were taught that the peoples of the Fertile Crescent and the peoples of the Andes developed in isolation, separated by uncrossable oceans. The Fuente Magna bowl is an object that proves contact. A Sumerian, or someone trained in Sumerian sacred script, stood on the shores of Lake Titicaca and wrote a prayer on a bowl. The implication is that the map of ancient civilization you carry in your mind is a kindergarten simplification, and the real history of human navigation, migration, and shared knowledge is a web so extensive that it connected the high desert of Peru to the banks of the Euphrates. The bowl holds the prayer and the proof that your ancient ancestors were not isolated. They were global, and then they lost it all. Number 2, the 2-billion-year-old reactor at Aklo. In 1972, a French physicist named Francis Perrin was analyzing a sample of uranium from the Aklo mine in Gabon, Central Africa. His instruments returned an impossible reading. The ratio of uranium-235 to uranium-238 was wrong. Specifically, the U-235 isotope was depleted. It was depleted by the exact amount you would see in spent fuel rods pulled from a modern nuclear reactor. It wasn't just a statistical anomaly. When geologists entered the mine, they found the reactor itself, a cluster of 16 natural nuclear fission sites. What they found next was the true shock. The reactions had not happened randomly. Rich uranium ore deposits, surrounded by groundwater, a natural neutron moderator, had achieved a self-sustaining, critical nuclear chain reaction. And then the groundwater would boil off, pausing the reaction. It would cool, flood back in, and the reactor would restart. This pulsed cycle continued for hundreds of thousands of years, 2 billion years ago. The spent fuel has been securely contained by the surrounding geology for that entire unimaginable duration, never migrating more than a few meters. The reactor had a built-in, passive safety mechanism. The isotopic signature is so precise that modern nuclear science uses it, and it alone, as a calibration standard to understand how to contain nuclear waste. You are looking at a naturally occurring fission reactor that operated deep in the Proterozoic, before the first multicellular life existed. The profound personal horror is the realization that the universe does not need a technological civilization to generate a nuclear event of immense complexity. A set of geological conditions, water and ore, did what we consider the ultimate achievement of our intelligence. It ran a controlled nuclear reactor for millennia and sealed its own waste perfectly. Your most advanced technology is a repetition of a self-assembling geological process that the Earth did long before your species was a possibility. The Earth dreamed the reactor into existence. You are just copying it, and the waste containment protocol you're so proud of. The geology of Aklo demonstrates that nature solved it permanently 2 billion years before you even defined the problem. Number 1, the Denisovan bracelet. In 2008, archaeologists excavating the Denisova cave in Siberia's Altai Mountains discovered a piece of jewelry. It was a bracelet carved from a deep green chloratolite stone. It was polished to a glassy sheen, with a precisely drilled hole showing high-speed, possibly rotary tool marks. When the team dated the stratigraphic layer in which it was found, the number came back impossible, 40,000 years. The bracelet is 40,000 years old. The species that carved it was not Homo sapiens. It was the Denisovans, an extinct human species whose remains were found in the same layer. We have the finger bone, we have the DNA, and we have their technology. Anatoly Derevienko, the lead archaeologist, stated unequivocally that the bracelet demonstrates a technological skill 30,000 years ahead of its time. The precision of the hole's diameter, the smoothness of the polish, and the parent stone's import from a source 150 miles away all indicate a culture of sophisticated craftsmanship and abstract aesthetic intent. At a time when our direct Homo sapiens ancestors in Europe were scraping hides in caves. Another human species in Siberia was drilling precision jewelry using techniques that would not reappear until the Neolithic Revolution, if not later. The bracelet should not exist, The genetic truth makes this entry deeply unsettling. You carry Denisovan DNA. The species that made that impossibly advanced bracelet did not simply vanish. They met your Homo sapiens ancestors. They interbred with them. Somewhere in the architecture of your genome, in the epigenetic triggers that shape your cognitive potential. You still carry the genetic memory of the toolmakers who polished chlorothalite to a mirror finish in firelight 40,000 years ago. The bracelet is a message from a version of humanity more advanced than its time, a version that is not extinct but is, in part, you. The proof is inside your cells. The technology was lost. The makers are not. The extinction of your sibling species was not a clean break, it was a merger. And the silent partner in your genetic dossier once carved objects of such staggering technical grace that when we found one, we had to rewrite the definition of primitive. If you want to see more videos like this, click the video on screen now and make sure to subscribe.